Good afternoon, everyone. It's Michael Herrera with MHA Consulting, and I welcome you to our continuing thought leadership series. Today, we're going to talk about conducting your BCM program physical, such as some of us may have one physical a year, two physicals a year, depending on your situation and how frequent you want to look at where do I stand today. We have to do the same with our business continuity program. And some of you may have small programs, moderately sized. Some of us have very large, complex global programs. We need to be able to conduct frequent physicals, as I call them, of what is really critical to us to ensure in the end, management has a very good understanding where does the most risk still exist? What risk do we have to worry about? By conducting these frequent small physicals on what's mission critical allows you to quickly understand where am I at, where are my big gaps, and what risk mitigation do I have to put in place? That's what we're going to talk about today. So again, thank you for being here today, and we look forward to your comments and your questions at the end of this presentation. Started the firm back in 1999. Prior to starting MHA Consulting, I was a regional vice president with Bank of America. Been in this industry now for almost 30 years. Dramatic changes from when I first started, and our entire focus was solely what we call the entire program, which was disaster recovery, which today only means IT, and seeing develop, build over time as I went from a large bank to running my own firm. And now 24 years later, we're also now a global boutique firm, well known not only for our expertise, but capabilities across a very global, diverse client base. In that time, additionally, we built our own tool set called BCM metrics that we initially built only for our use, but over time has evolved and grown to being a intuitive, easy to use tool set that allows you to build your program from beginning to end and continue to maintain and improve. This is what I would say is probably our greatest advantage as a firm, not only from the consulting, but the software side, is that we have worked globally at clients from 100 employees all the way to 50,000 or more employees across the globe. And working across so many different industries and cultures, you begin to see how business continuity is applied from financial institutions to consumer to services and technology across the globe. And that has allowed us to bring this wealth of knowledge to consulting and wealth of knowledge to our customers because we understand what they need. We understand based on the culture of their organization and their industry, how we need to apply business continuity. So I believe that has been a true competitive advantage. From end-to-end services we provide, or do you just need a BIA? That's, I think, another item that really differentiates us. Because we're boutique, we're nimble, we're able to move very quickly. Clients really do like that. Over 50% of our clients outsource their entire program to us. They allow us to manage it from beginning to end, but more importantly, allow them then to execute. We have others that'll just ask us to heavily augment or come in one time to do certain aspects of their program. And as I stated before, we provide a very comprehensive tool set that now runs in the Azure cloud that allows you to do everything from assess your compliance, conduct your business impact analysis, produce and test your plans, and then also allow you to put all your global sites on one map and allow you to have all of the critical documents and information you need for each of your sites, as well as manage incidents from there as well. What are we going to talk about today? I always like to start these webinar series with some of the industry trends I see. I'm always being very honest and open as to what I see out there across our clients today. MHA, we're working at as a sizable number of engagements on a global level. So we get to see really what's happening out there, what's really occurring. Secondly, then I'm going to talk about what are the vital signs of a BCM program. We have many standards out there, right? Well, it's not all of those requirements in each standard. How can we really get it down to a critical path so I can quickly ascertain as to what is the state and health of my program? We're going to talk about what are really the ones you need to monitor, at least based on my industry experience and over those years, what I look for when I got to quickly go in and do a very quick, triage as to where someone is at. How do I assess the state of these signs? And then also then provide a prescription plan, right? What is it? What do we need to prescribe in order to make that improvement? Let's talk about some trends, things that just continue to bother us as we go through many programs is programs simply can't recover. Those that can are still in the minority. And we're talking at probably less than 10% that truly can recover, whether it's from a crisis perspective, they can manage all incidents appropriately, from management's perspective, communications internally and externally, to can I recover all the critical business operations? And then most importantly, how do I handle loss of technology? Those programs continue to be few and far between. And we hope over time they continue to improve, but it's still few and far between. We do see a movement to operational resilience. And we knew this was going to occur. We have a client in the Middle East, and in working with their UK banking as well as their Bahrain offices, that has been an emphasis in those areas and those standards, whether it's UK or Singapore standards. They have been focusing everyone to operational resilience. So you're starting to see that, of course, come over to the US. But I'm going to say this honestly. Everybody believes I can quickly change my program to operational resilience. Some of us can't even implement a basic, business continuity program, let alone move to the operational resilience. So if you're going to look to move to operational resilience, read about it, understand it, intimately understand what it means to you and your organization. Next is I will tell you this. And a matter of fact, I did a talk. I was at one of the last DR conferences. And in talking with some folks, I advised everyone, guess what? You're starting to continue to see more and more outsourcing and augmenting of BC efforts through third party, us as consultants. More organizations are saying, A, I can't find somebody. B, they're asking too much money. And C, I need to get this done today, not tomorrow. So I'm just that's where it's at. So we see more and more of that today. Chaos testing. This is something that we're doing. Chaos testing came upon by a couple groups in the IT. It was initially only focused on IT, but we've now taken it and starting to use it in our testing, whether it's on crisis management, whether it's in the business recovery, or an IT side. Chaos testing is basically going out there. You need to have a moderately to higher performing program, but in conducting testing, you inject totally unplanned multiple types of events, whether it's in production or whether it's in the test environment, to validate, can we really adapt and cause issues and see how people respond. So that is, again, another piece of the future along with operational resilience. Here's number 5. This is something that's bothered me as a practitioner as well as a CEO of a consulting firm. Often when I'm looking for practitioners, I think when business continuity got started many, many years ago, the expectation was you needed to understand and be able to implement from end to end, from the governance and oversight, the BIAs, the threat and risk, to crisis management, business recovery, ITDR. You had to do it all. I think today we have so many practitioners that are solely focused on, I can only do BIAs or I can write BCPs. And they're still asking, in my personal opinion, again, not just being a practitioner, but somebody who hires highly capable people to do their job. They're asking for salaries and amounts that don't match up with skill sets. And on the flip side, we're seeing employers say, no way. So I think as a state of BC practitioners, we all have a right to ask for what we want and how we want to be thought of as in the field, but we need to also be able to perform to that level. And that's something I've seen. So I think overall, state of practitioners, we got to continue to raise our game if we want to be paid and be paid for the value we bring. Further integration with cyber, that's a no-brainer right now. That is continuing on. Here's the issue we see, and not necessarily on enterprise risk, but on cyber. We see at times a big silo between cyber and BC. And also we see at times that they really don't want to talk to each other. They kind of have this war between them. I hope that changes over time because we need each other. We need our plans to be integrated. We need our process to integrate. We need our strategies to integrate. So that is something that I see is in some areas, the gap is extremely wide. Others have learned to work together. We also see a lot of chief information security officers taking over business continuity along with enterprise risk. I'd rather see BC under enterprise risk than cyber, but that's what's happening out there. One of the things everybody's always told us, hey, Michael, I work from home. Don't worry about it. I've taken care of business continuity. We all know that is not true. You may work from home. You may have a hybrid approach, but here's things we've seen. We've had clients that have had issues because they've had incidents in a regional area and they can't bring their people back to work because they don't have space. They've outsourced or got rid of the space at their corporate office. I was just in Guam with a customer. Had it not been for the corporate headquarters, their employees had massive issues at home, would not have had anywhere to work, to wash their clothes, to eat, or take a shower. So we've got to be careful. Even though we work in this highly mobile, remote workforce, we still need to be prepared for regional events, impacts to our people out there, allow them still to have capabilities to either work from regional sites or still at headquarters in some form or fashion. Big change in continuity plans and exercises. And I think at MHA, we really have been spearheading a lot of changes. We've been using a lot of mock exercises to actually help us build plans. We've been doing more frequent exercises, short exercises at clients. We're seeing continuity plans and their importance. It's still there, but more and more people are saying make them tight, make them shorter, tighter, less, and make sure they're only those checklists, kind of like we've been saying for years with Checklist Manifesto. Because I will tell you, we've had a number of clients that have gone through events, and we always do the hot wash, and we always ask, how much priority did you place on going back to your plans? In a lot of cases, it's very light to nothing. Others have put maybe 20, 30%, and the rest is what I've learned and what I have up here. So plans and exercises are really, I think we're going to have to overweight exercises, and plans continue to get lighter and lighter with a focus only what I may forget. Sadly, I hate to tell you, we have clients that want us to do a full BIA in an hour. And typically we only need an hour and a half at the most. And they're still now trying to cut everything down. Can you get it done in 30 minutes? Can you get it done in an hour? So as practitioners, we need to get better and better at making sure we're very well prepared in advance of what we need to do, as well as be prepared to ask the right questions and minimize the time we need. Because I'm going to tell you, it's not getting greater, it's getting shorter. And then manual workarounds. It's amazing in today's world, they continue to be required. We have more and more clients either in healthcare, manufacturing, and other very time-sensitive environments that are asking us, how do I do without my systems for 2 weeks to a month? How do I continue to operate? So it's out there, it needs to happen, and we need to figure it out. Okay, let's get into the webinar today. Vital sign, what keeps our program alive? You know, this dials come out of our BCM metrics, our compliance tool that allows you to assess compliance across all the standards. We typically look at these areas here, right? We look at an overall enterprise maturity, but we break our assessments into the administration of the program. How well do I manage it from oversight to BIA to threat risk, all the basics. Crisis management, how do I strategically manage an incident? How do I manage business recovery and the critical operations and processes? And then IT, right? So if you did try to do a full physical of your program every X period of time, it takes a lot of time because there's a lot of aspects, a lot of questions. So I've got to downsize that, right? I've got to downsize what I'm looking at in each of these areas. So I get a very quick picture as to where I stand, right? I know from my perspective, I go to physicals. I'm going to go to physicals every 6 months to see where I'm at. Others go a year, others never do it. And we see the same when it comes to programs. They're always just trying to get things done versus are we where we need to be? Are we where we need to go? All right. So let's look at IT disaster recovery as an example. So again, if you take a look at the right here, here's all of the components we typically evaluate when we're looking at a disaster recovery program. Integration of the BIA that's been produced by business continuity, maintenance of the program, pandemic planning, how well are my plans developed, recovery exercises, strategy, and training and awareness. So we look at all these to come up with an overall maturity. But in our opinion, or in my opinion at least, here's the 3 areas that I really truly find that I would look at. I look at right away in a program. Has the BIA been fully integrated into IT disaster recovery? Does IT disaster recovery and the BIA that was produced by business continuity, are they in alignment? Do we really know where the gaps exist across the systems? Does IT agree with what the business says? If that hasn't been done, that is one of the first critical vital signs. Second, recovery strategy. Recovery strategy. This is an area that I will tell you, this is what stops people with being able to truly recover their systems in the time frames required. Most will either have very basic strategies. Others can only recover their core systems and not all supporting. And it's few and far between that can say, I can bring up the entire production environment. Most have very weak recovery strategies that can't recover. And then the last piece we deem as like a super critical recovery exercises. If I know what's critical for my BIA integration and I agree with it and align, have I implemented the strategy to meet that BIA, and I run proven complex exercises to validate it, I'm in a very good space. So you can see out of all those areas on the right, I've got 7 areas. In my physical, I'd only be making sure how well is the BIA integrated, how good is recovery strategy, and how good are the recovery exercises. Think of your own program, at least from an ITDR perspective. What do you think? And I'll tell you, those 3 things are telling of everything else. You can see I didn't even include plans. So in assessing vital sign, what really is important? So that ITDR was just one example. But if I look across the spectrum of our programs, and you look at across all key 4 areas, administration and oversight, crisis management, business recovery, ITDR, you can see I boiled this down to really a small number of things we really need to look at to do a quick triage, kind of like you would do when a patient shows up, right? Is the airway clear? Are they breathing, et cetera? All those quick things you look at to say, what kind of state are they in? Do they need to go to surgery? Do I need to have an MRI? Or, God forbid, are they dead on arrival, right? So kind of the same thing with programs. I'm continually amazed at going into programs and whether they have a business continuity office or enterprise risk or somebody else, you'll ask them, where do you think your program sits today? Most can't tell you where they're at, what areas in their program are good or not, where their gaps are. Sad to say. So if you take a look here, here's the things I believe across each of these areas that I would use as a quick triage. 1, under program admin and oversight, what's the state of my BIA? What's the state of my threat and risk? Is there a risk mitigation plan? Crisis management, do I even have a team? Have I at least done exercises? Okay. You don't always have to have a plan, but at least you have a team identified. Can you do exercise to validate and adapt and get those people to be educated into what they need to do? Business recovery, have I done a BIA and has it been integrated into my business recovery program? Do I have a solid recovery strategies that actually work and have been proven? And I've actually done exercises to prove I can recover my mission critical operations. And then the same thing as we talked about ITDR. So you can see how quickly you can boil this down to really where is my risk remain. And these are the things that really keep our program. There's a lot of things around it, policy, standards, all of these other pieces and parts around that they're nice to have. They're bolt-ons, but this is kind of the critical path in my opinion. So I put this risk, kind of this residual risk matrix together, right? Where do we stand? So really by you doing that quick triage of your program on a regular basis is really trying to figure out where does my risk, what does my remaining or residual risk lie? And this is a lot of things. If you can go to management with intelligent information, there's a lot of times we'll see status reports when we do a current state, we'll ask, show me the metrics that you show management. And in the majority of cases, what we see is volume metrics. That means nothing to recoverability. All it means is how much work did you do? I did 27 BIAs, I wrote 10 plans, and I did 10 exercises. What does that tell me? It just means you did work. That does not mean you have a highly functional, demonstratable program that will really prove that you can recover. So what I did is I just threw some basic information by area, by program admin, crisis management, business recovery, ITDR, and I put down here's some how you can begin to kind of plot yourself where you're at, right? So if you start out at program admin, you can see what risk is high, what risk is medium, and what risk is low, right? So, and as you get better and better, of course, you can see the risk gets lower across each of these areas because these areas are in very good condition versus what a risk high would be or a risk medium. And, people's programs flux. This is the other thing. I see people do current states, they'll do them once a year or every 2 years. Well, a lot changes in that time frame. A lot changes. I just got done doing an exercise for a very large credit union. And, since the last time we were there, just in the crisis management, new team members were on. They hadn't been integrated. They hadn't been trained. Things have changed in systems. So risk changes on a regular basis, kind of like when you go to a physical. You may be one time you're in great shape. The next time you're like, what happened? So that's why it's important to understand risk is in flux and understand it on a regular basis and get away from volume metrics. So now, one of the other things that we highly believe is when we address the gaps, there's certain components of our program that have a higher priority than others. And this is our personal opinion as a firm. We believe IT disaster recovery, if we weighted them in order of priority, ITDR has the highest weighting, right? Business recovery is right below it. Crisis management is third, and then last is program admin. Because we really believe, of course, we all know without systems, we're basically dead in the water. And we know manual workarounds are only so good, if at all, in some cases. And then business recovery, being able to cover operations and business, crisis management to manage the incident. But that's how we weight it, and that's how we come up with our enterprise maturity number as to where do we sit. So that's kind of where we when we're looking at where we stand in those areas, where the residual risk, priority goes first to ITDR, then the business recovery, crisis management, and then program admin last. So you can see here up on this matrix, I just put a sample. Well, what does it look like? Let's say I'm doing a quick assessment of my program and I want to figure out where I'm at. So let's say under program admin, hey, you know what? I find that I've got a risk medium. My BIA is current, my TA is current, but I put no risk mitigation plan. I've done my risk assessment in my BIA, conducted the BIA as well, figured out my threats and risk, but I have no plan in place to figure out how do I mitigate more risk. Maybe in crisis management, you can see I put risk high. I have no team or exercises conducted. Maybe this is a newer program. Then I go to business recovery. You can see everything is low. I'm in good shape. I know what my core services are. I've tested my strategies and I've validated them. And then the ITDR, you can see we're risk or medium. This is a great thing to go to management with. I see status reports. I see presentations that just go on for pages and pages ad nauseum. What you want to go quickly is tell management, where am I at? What do I need to fix? What is it going to cost? And what's my remaining risk? Don't waste their time. And I'm telling you again, we're at 50 engagements right now. And when you go to management, they don't want the 20-page PowerPoint. They don't want the 50-page report. Tell me in 1 to 2 pages where I'm at and what you need of me to fix it. Times are continuing again to become more and more focused. So in summary, very quickly, you can see we got through today's presentation. I seriously hope you take this to heart. It's a simple process. I know that if I was running a program and it was brand new, I'd probably be doing a quick physical probably every 3 months, right? If I was in a better shape, probably every 6 months. I would tell everybody at least do one every 6 months. It doesn't take long. Figure out where you're at. Do we have any risk? What is the remaining residual risk after I've implemented everything? And then again, worst case, you do it once a year, and you should do a complete full analysis at least every 2 years. So in summary, focus on the critical areas in order of priority. That's, like I told you, ITDR, business recovery, crisis management, and then program admin. Assess the level of risk in each critical area. Develop a risk mitigation plan. How many of you have one today? I can't. Sometimes we go to clients after exercises, they don't even have an action plan, let alone a risk mitigation plan. So have that risk mitigation plan. That's what management's looking for. Seek to reduce risk by criticality. Again, focus on those areas that are most important in your organization and get them fixed. There's nothing worse when we create a risk mitigation plan, give it back to the customer. We come back a year, 2 years later, do an assessment. Same problems are still there. Nothing's changed. And then present to management for resolution in a very tight approach with a risk matrix. Where do I stand and what needs to be fixed? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone today for your time. And I wanted to see if there's questions. Cassie, do we have any questions?
Yes. I had a couple questions come to me in the chat.
Okay.
Can you elaborate a bit on how conducting a BC program physical aligns with operational resilience?
Yes. So it does, because in operational resilience, it's now asking you to look at core services. It's asking you to take that magnifying glass or microscope and make it a more narrow view. By conducting this physical on what is critical and what order, you're following that approach because you're only focused on what is mission critical versus trying to boil the entire ocean.
Great. Thank you so much. And would you also elaborate a bit on presenting residual risk to management and how valuable that is?
Oh my goodness. I've been saying this for years. One, you're going to have to educate management in residual risk. Enterprise risk management has brought that terminology to our industry. You need to not only does business content not only needs to tie in with enterprise risk and work on residual risk, but it provides very intelligent, concise information. So when you go to management and say, we either have very high residual risk, which means, man, we've got a lot of major gaps that if we don't fix could impact us significantly, or when you go to them, you can validate and show statistically or analytically our residual risk is low. And guess what? We're in a very good space. You can tell them, look, we have low residual risk. We probably don't have to spend any more money versus you going with high risk and saying we have to spend a lot. You will get their attention. This is what they want to see. Let them know what residual risk is. Understand it. Apply it to your program.
Thank you, Michael. The last question I had was, is there a point in time where you should conduct the physical on your enterprise program, your entire program, or is it just focusing on the mission critical areas?
So it is my personal opinion, again, being in the field now for almost 30 years, I would only use residual risk on what is absolutely mission critical. And for me, when we apply residual risk, we're looking at what we need in that first 48 hours or less. As a matter of fact, recently with a client we've been with for almost 15 years, their BIA was only focused on what we needed in the first 48 hours or less. And it was amazing to see when we did the refresh how it allowed us to really boil down what really runs this mission critical infrastructure organization. So in doing residual risk, you don't have to do it. Don't try to do the entire program. Focus on what you already know is really critical to you that keeps you running. That way then management can focus its time, money, and resources on what's really needed. Well, MHA Consulting and myself, Michael Rare, would like to thank everyone for your time and attendance today. We look forward again to you attending our next leadership webinar series that'll be coming up here in the next quarter. So again, thank you, everyone. Everyone have a wonderful day.